Good morning, everyone. My name is Jay Nolan. I'm a firefighter here at Natchez Fire Department. I've been here for about 3 years. Today we're going to have a lecture and a demonstration on SCBA packs. So let's get to these learning objectives. The first thing we're going to do is let's define what an SCBA is. We're going to talk about it. We're going to define what the acronym means. We're going to identify the different components of this pack. We're going to demonstrate the operation of the SCBA pack, and then toward the middle we're going to describe the advantages and the disadvantages, and then we'll get into a little more of the nuts and bolts about what the SCBA is. So let's start right at the very beginning. SCBA. Does anybody know what that stands for? Yeah, we all know that, don't we? SCBA stands for Self-Contained Breathing Apparatus. And what this is a unit that we as firefighters wear when we go into IDLH environments. And IDLH environment stands for Immediately Dangerous to Life and Health. And there's a couple of different environments that could be. You could have, an oxygen deficient atmosphere, which is going to be one that's less than 19.5% oxygen. What about a smoke-filled room? We all go in those, right? That's pretty dangerous. What about toxic gases? That would definitely qualify. What about elevated temperatures? It's hot, so we need something to protect our face. And not only that, what we're really wanting to protect is our lungs, right? Because if you go into a fire and you get burned, yeah, you can see that. You go to the doctor, you get that fixed. But what you cannot see is on the inside. And a lot of what we do, we deal with carcinogenic materials every day. And if you breathe that in, well, you may or may not see an immediate effect right away, right? This stuff has a cumulative effect. So this protects the lungs, the inside of your body that you cannot see. So you need to wear this. And what do we usually do as firefighters? We've been fighting a fire. I'm guilty of it too. I'm hot, I'm tired. We've been in here for 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever. We knock the fire down. We take our pack off. We do. And then we go in there and we salvage and we overhaul. But what are we doing? We're knocking up dust. We're knocking up airborne particulates. And that's another thing that this will protect you from. So you need to wear your pack anytime you're in that IDLH environment. Because whether you can see it or not, you're breathing in soot, ashes, light smoke, airborne particulates, whatever the case may be. All of these are going into your lungs, and like I said before, you may or may not see an immediate effect, but this is going to have a cumulative effect over your respiratory system and your lungs over the lifetime of your body. So this is what this does. This protects your lungs and your respiratory system from long-term effects. So now let's talk about the 4 components of this SCBA pack. So first of all, you got your frame. The frame is the hard shell right here that everything else is connected to. Then you're going to have your harness. Your harness is what actually connects the unit to your body. You got 2 shoulder straps, 2 waist straps. You got the cylinder. The cylinder actually holds the compressed air. This is your lifeline right here. You take this in there, and that's the air that you breathe. And you got the regulator and the high pressure hose. And what this does is, this air in here is highly compressed. So what the regulator does is it takes this highly compressed air and it regulates it down to atmospheric pressure where we can breathe it, because we can't breathe super highly pressurized air. So it regulates it down. And then of course, you've got your mask. We'll talk about that here in a second. This is what you put on your face, obviously. And your regulator connects to it, and that's what allows you to breathe. This has a harness also, and straps that pull it to your face. This serves several purposes. It helps the air get to you. Also, it protects your face from heat. It protects your eyes from smoke. So you want to kind of center this harness on the back of your head, and the straps, and we'll get more into that here in a minute. So let's break it down a little bit. Like I said, the harness, the frame, the harness holds the cylinder firmly in place, shoulder and waist straps, and this is the shoulder and the waist straps distribute the weight. So you don't have, you got some of the weight at your waist, and you got some of it on your shoulders. So you're not just, everything's not on your shoulders, everything's not on your waist. So the harness kind of helps evenly distribute that weight across your whole entire body. Now we got the cylinder. The cylinder is the main weight of this whole assembly. All this other stuff is relatively light. This weight varies with model and manufacturer. It can weigh anywhere from 9.4 pounds to 16.6 pounds. I mean, this is a Scott pack right here. These are fairly light. I've worn some before that were super heavy. Those big steel 60-minute bottles, they are heavy, very heavy. So obviously this right here is what holds the air that you breathe. And you got common sizes, like I said, 30-minute bottle, 45-minute bottle, 60-minute bottle. And these can go anywhere from 2216 to 4,500 psi. That's pounds per square inch. That's the amount of air that they squeeze into there for you to breathe. So let's scroll on over to the next page here. Next page of the PowerPoint. Okay, the regulator. Like I said, this reduces the pressure of the cylinder air. This also controls the flow of air. There's a diaphragm in here that when you breathe in, it moves in and it gives you air. When you stop breathing, the diaphragm closes. So that's how that works. The diaphragm is what actually gives you the... There's a bypass valve here in a case of emergency. If the regulator malfunctions, you can open the bypass valve and you can get a little air that way also. And then obviously you've got a gauge over here. The gauge is what shows you how much air you've got in your tank there. And then obviously we've got the mask. We've already talked about that. It allows you to get cool, uncontaminated air. So another thing that this pack has that's really cool is called a PASS device. And what that stands for is a Personal Alert Safety System. So let's say you're on fire and go down and you're not moving, or God forbid something happens to you, you fall down, you fall through a floor, you're unconscious, whatever. This, if you're motionless for about 30 seconds or so, this thing's going to issue a loud shriek. Okay, and we'll test it out in a minute, and then I'll show you how that sounds. But it's really loud. It's really loud. So the first thing you want to do before you ever put this on, you want to just check it. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is check your gauge to make sure. So let's do that. Let's put the pack on. Let's check our gauge. You're going to go counterclockwise in this one. You hear the regulator boosting up. This pack may have something wrong with it. Okay, you can't see this, but everybody see this? It's almost full. It's not quite. I would like to have it a little more full. If this were my pack, I would take it to the cascade and top it off. And there's the PASS device right there. I hadn't moved in 30 seconds, so it went off. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut this off. You've heard the PASS device. It's working. The gauge is full. So we've seen that gauge was full, but what you want to do ultimately, this gauge may be faulty. So what you want to do, let me cut this pack off. What you want to do is check this gauge to this gauge. And they should be really close, and they should be at least 100 psi within each other. I'm going to bleed that down. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to say that. Once you cut the pack off, you got to bleed the air off your regulator. Then you cut it off. When you hear those two loud beeps, it's off. Okay. So now we're going to inspect the pack. We checked our air supply. We're good there. We want to check the harness. Check the frame, make sure there's no cracks, no splits, make sure all the hoses are connected. I'm going to check the harness, make sure the straps are good, they're not cut, they're not split, everything works good. Just double check the buckle, make sure the buckle seems fine. We checked all that, we checked the PASS device, make sure it's working. Pass device is working fine. Okay, so then you want to check your mask. And usually you would have these fitted annually. The guy, we all know, he comes around, he puts you on the machine, he hooks you up. But there's another simple little way that, it's not a scientific, but if you put this to your face and you cover the hole and you inhale, and this sucks to your, creates a vacuum, this will suck to your face. And you can tell if you're getting a seal or not. And I'm just going to demonstrate that a little bit. I'm going to put it on my face and you're going to see it. I'm not going to push it, but I'm going to cover the hole and you'll see it suck in. So just do this. See how that kind of sucked to my face? I think that's a pretty good fit. That'll be a pretty good seal. But you want to make sure that this harness is centered on your head and these straps are pulled snugly tight. So here we go. Harness is centered. Pull the straps. Okay? Ready to go. Another thing, you want to make sure that you don't have long hair or facial hair, because if any hair gets between your face and the seal, you may or may not get a good seal, and that's going to be a bad deal. If you get off in a fire and you have a compromised seal, that means your air is getting out. Your air could be getting out, or bad air could be getting in. You don't want to lose your air. You only got a limited supply. So let's just talk about